Put the word margin in a thesaurus and you get some great synonyms. Surplus, extra, and latitude, for example. When it comes to your finances, they all mean one thing: having more money than month. Hi, I'm Rob West. To get that margin, you need more income than outgo. I'll talk about that first today and how it impacts your life. Then it's on to your questions at 800-525-7000. That's 800-525-7000. This is MoneyWise, biblical wisdom for your financial decisions. Well, you may not equate the word margin with personal finances, but you're probably familiar with its use in the business world, where the term is usually profit margin. When we buy an item at the store, we don't consider how it got there, but someone had to make it, usually many people working for a company. They all need to be paid wages. Then salespeople had to get the retailers to buy the product or service, and they need to be paid a salary and often a commission on top of that. Transportation people have to get the product to the retailers and they need to be paid. Then the retailers have to mark up the product because they have bills to pay and need to make a living too. So you've got several business entities involved in getting that product to where you can purchase it. And at each step along the way, the manufacturer, trucker, and retailer all need to have sufficient margin or profit to make it worthwhile for them, or the product never gets to you. Now, how much is sufficient? Well, it varies depending on the product and how much it costs to bring it to market. Other factors play a role as well: competition, market size, and volume. You see, the more units you sell, the smaller your margin needs to be. A new automobile has thousands of dollars of margin, but a lot fewer of them are sold than, say, cans of chicken noodle soup. With soup, you may have 50 cents of margin, but if you sell 10 million cans, well, you're probably going to stay in business. So how do we apply this lesson to our lives? Well, the same principle holds true when it comes to our margin, and not just for money, but for our time and energy as well. How much do we have left over after all of our obligations are met? You have your job, family commitments, chores around the house, and obligations to your church. You must also prepare for unexpected or irregular expenses like broken plumbing, car repairs. All of these involve time, money, and effort on your part. Do you have time and energy left over to recharge your batteries and spend time with God? That's another form of margin that we all need. To be clear here, I'm not lumping time with God into your other obligations. That's not just something to check off your to-do list. Time with God isn't something we have to do. It's something we get to do, and it's critical to living a balanced life with our time, family, service to the Lord, and of course, our money. Now, what does having margin with our personal finances look like? Well, it simply means having extra for the so-called rainy days, family emergencies, medical expenses above your deductible, or helping a visiting missionary or college student if God speaks to your heart. The key to acquiring that margin is living on a budget or spending plan to help you decide in advance where your money will go. Did you know there are only 3 things you can do with money? Spend it, save it, or give it away. Every dollar you've ever made or will ever make goes into one of those 3 buckets. A budget is just a way of deciding ahead of time what goes where. By the way, this isn't the same as balancing your checkbook, for example. That's just seeing where your money went, not deciding in advance where it should go. By the way, if you haven't downloaded the free MoneyWise app yet, we encourage you to do so. It uses the envelope system and it makes budgeting easy. Get it wherever you download your apps. If you're not making those spending decisions ahead of time, it's almost a certainty that your income won't be able to keep up with your outgo. As you set up your spending plan, you may see that you have more month left over when the money runs out. Well, then you've got to make some changes. Find a way to increase your income or reduce your outgo, your expenses. If you need help with that, go to moneywise.org and sign up with one of our volunteer coaches. They can help you make your budget work. The key is learning to live on less than you make, having margin, having money left over at the end of the month. Without it, you'll slip into debt and never be able to save for the future. And when you finally get financial margin, you may find that you also have more physical and emotional margin. You'll sleep better, feel more relaxed, and better able to use your spiritual gifts to serve God and help others. So that's the importance of margin. You know, this key idea that we talk about often, living on less than you earn is the foundation to every financial success. And that begins with a plan, more specifically, a spending plan. So hopefully this is helpful to you today and an encouragement for you to get started on that budget. Your calls are next. 800-525-7000. We'll be right back.
Author Ron Blue reminds us of the promise in James 1:5.
If any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask, and let him ask in faith, and then obey.
And in his book, Never Enough, 3 Keys to Financial Contentment, you'll find that biblical wisdom to help you navigate your daily money decisions. Right now, you can request your copy with a gift of $25 or more to MoneyWise. Just visit MoneyWise.org and click the Never Enough banner at the top. That's MoneyWise.org.
How should we as Christians think about investing? What if we could invest our money in a way that aligns with what we believe? At Eventide, we believe it is possible to love God and love our neighbor in the very practice of investing. We design investments for performance and a better world so you can invest for the future with a sense of wholeness and purpose. We call this investing that makes the world rejoice. More information is available at investeventide.com.
Welcome back to MoneyWise. I'm Rob West, taking your calls and questions today. 800-525-7000. We've got a few lines open, 800-525-7000. Let's take a quick email. This one came into our email box, questions@moneywise.org. This came from Abby and Jack, and they said, how do I know, or how do we know when it's the right time to begin saving for retirement? And this is a great question because we don't want to just jump right out of the gate saving for retirement if we haven't taken care of some other, perhaps more important priorities first. And this would often occur just as we're getting started. I would want to make sure, Abby and Jack, that first of all, you're giving systematically. I would put that priority number one. Second, I would want to make sure that you're living on a budget, that you've got some margin and you've got a spending plan controlling the flow of money in and out. If you have credit card debt, I would save an emergency fund of $1,500 and then I'd focus on paying off the credit cards. Again, going back to that balanced budget, making sure you're only using the cards for budgeted items so you can pay it down to zero. Once the credit cards are at zero, I'd get that emergency fund up to 3 to 6 months expenses and an online savings account linked to your checking. Then it's time to begin thinking about saving for retirement. I would start with at least the matching portion of your 401k or 403b if your company offers that, and then look to go up to 10 to 15% of your take-home pay. Now, that's just kind of the general guidelines I would provide. There may be some other priorities you'd want to mix in there if you're saving for a down payment on a house or something like that, but that would be at least the pecking order for me before I would begin thinking about saving for the long term. We appreciate your call. Email. And by the way, if you want to send an email, we'd love to hear from you. We try to read as many of them as we can on the air. Just send it over to questions@moneywise.org. All right, we're taking your calls and questions today. 800-525-7000 is the number to call. Let's go to Chicago, Illinois. Christine, thank you for your call today. How can I help you?
Good afternoon, Rob. Thank you for taking my call. My question is, I was told or heard that if somebody is divorced and married over 20 years, you're eligible for your ex-spouse's Social Security. But what my question is I'm 4 years older than my ex-husband, and I'm nearing retirement age, and I was wondering, do I wait for my retirement age that I'm eligible to take half of their Social Security, or is it their retirement age?
Yes. If you're divorced, you may still be able to collect or claim benefits based on your ex-spouse's work record, as long as the marriage lasted 10 years, and you said it was 27, and you aren't currently married. Even if your ex has remarried, you're still eligible based on his or her record. So, as would be the case with a current spouse, you have to be at least 62 years old to file for divorce benefits. and your maximum benefit would also be 50% of your ex-spouse's full benefit amount if he files at his full retirement age. But unlike a current spouse, your ex-spouse does not need to have already applied for Social Security benefits for you to receive the benefits based on his record. And then finally, claiming those ex-spousal benefits has no effect on your ex-spouse or their current spouse's benefits. And then at some point, if you want to switch to your own benefits because that's higher and you would be entitled to the higher of the two, which means you could let yours continue to grow, then you would leave that behind. And then based on your own work record, you could switch over to your retirement benefits at that point. So if you have further questions or you want to know kind of how to handle all of this, I would perhaps schedule an appointment with the Social Security Administration. They're doing virtual visits, and you can go to ssa.gov, Christine, and I think that will help you perhaps look at your record and his and actually get real numbers and talk about the best strategy. But generally speaking, that's how it would work, and we appreciate your call today very much. 800-525-7000, taking your questions today. Lombard, Illinois. Ann, thank you for calling today. How can I help you?
Hi. I am going to be getting a bit of inheritance, and I have a mortgage that has about $100,000 on it at 2.5%. And my broker wants me to take the money and invest it because he's thinking he can make more in the market rather than me paying off my house. So I think I know the answer, but I thought I'd just run it by you.
Okay, very good. Talk to me, Ann, about your conviction in this. Let's set the financial side aside for a moment. Tell me, what do you feel like the Lord's leading you to do?
I think pay off my house and get out of debt.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a good choice. I mean, as I've said before to other callers, I've been doing this a long time. I've never had anybody call back and say, I paid off my house and I couldn't sleep after I did that. I regretted it. I just don't get that call. And the reason is, yes, there's the financial side of the equation, which is, could I take the money that I'm paying 2.5% interest on, put it to work and, after tax, do better in terms of the reward than I'm doing over some period of time on the mortgage. And if I'm one of the 18% of people that itemize my deductions, take the benefit of the deduction on the mortgage interest. So, if you do the math there, 82% of people don't even use that. They take the standard deduction, especially after it was doubled a couple of years ago. So there's that side, which is the financial equation. And then there's the non-financial side, which is, A, you have a conviction to be debt-free. You understand the counsel of Scripture and how it changes the relationship. B, you just want greater peace of mind knowing that you own your home, or you want the flexibility of being unencumbered. I mean, all of those, I think, potentially outweigh the financial. Now, does that mean it's wrong to hang on to the mortgage and invest the difference? No, I think you've just got to wrestle through it for yourself between you and the Lord and establish your convictions and make a good decision. But I wouldn't let anybody talk me into investing the money if I really had a desire to be debt-free, and I would fully support that, Ann. So if you had said something different and said, I'm comfortable with this mortgage because I really want to try to get a better return on the money, I'd say that's completely fine too. But I think just based on what I'm hearing from you, I'd go ahead and pay off your mortgage. I think you'll be glad you did. Does that make sense?
I think so too. It makes 100% sense because then I heard someone say, you own what you own, and who knows what they're going to do with your 401ks or whatever in the future,
Yes. I mean, there's some of that swirling around. I mean, I would just say to that, 401ks in terms of how they're treated and classified, it would be very difficult to get legislation through that would threaten anybody's 401ks just because of how important those are to Americans. But I understand what you're saying just about being able to own real property outright. There is certainly something to be said about that. So I would proceed accordingly, and I think that's a good decision. And by the way, if you want to consider an advisor who shares your values, who perhaps, not that they're better or worse, just understands the counsel of Scripture and perhaps would see your side of it a bit more effectively, you could look into having a certified Kingdom advisor work with you. I think you're going to get a more more favorable approach to this type of thinking just because it lines up so well with Scripture, you could go on our website, moneywise.org, click Find a CKA, and find somebody to help you there. We appreciate your call today, and hey, once you pay off that mortgage, call us back and let us know. That's always a lot of fun when we get those calls. By the way, if you haven't downloaded the MoneyWise app where you can take this program with you on the go, do that in your app store today. Just search for MoneyWise Biblical Finance. You'll find it there. It's a free download. We're going to pause for a brief break. This is MoneyWise. We'll be right back.
Siri, what's the best way to save for college?
I'm not sure.
Well, what does the Bible say about co-signing for a loan or investing for retirement?
I don't know that either, but you can find those answers on the free MoneyWise app.
Really?
Sure. You can connect with the online community and get answers and encouragement from MoneyWise coaches.
That sounds great. Siri, download the MoneyWise app.
Got it. Learn more at moneywise.org.
If you're investing for retirement or any other goal, you may be wondering if it's possible to enjoy both profit and peace of mind no matter what's happening in the market. Sound Mind Investing has a short video webinar on that topic at soundmindinvesting.org. SMI has helped tens of thousands of Christians learn to be wise and faithful stewards in the area of investing. Profit and peace of mind no matter what's happening in the market at soundmindinvesting.org.
All right, let's take some phone calls today. We do have some lines open. We'd love to hear from you, whatever's on your mind today, saving or giving. Perhaps it's establishing a spending plan, or maybe you've got some debt you're looking to pay off. Whatever it is, we'd love to hear from you. 800-525-7000. We're going to begin today in Wisconsin. Teresa, thank you for your call. How can I help you?
My comment was I was listening to some advice about looking at Bankrate.com for interest rates.
Yes.
And so I went there and I thought, wait a minute, my credit union is paying more than any of these banks are. They're paying 2%. So I'm just throwing that out there. Don't forget to recommend the credit unions because their interest rates are phenomenal. Considering.
Well, yes. Well, Teresa, it's a great point, and I'm glad you brought it up. You know, typically credit unions have higher interest rates on deposits and lower fees than brick and mortar banks. They tend to put an emphasis on customer service. They may also be willing to work with folks who have a lower credit score. You know, the downside is there are requirements for many of them to be able to join, so it's not as widely available to everyone, and they typically have fewer locations. It's also not, you know, typically a lot of these, high yield savings accounts offered by the online banks are available nationwide. The credit unions obviously typically are more regional in nature or have some requirements that would make them not accessible to everyone. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't do your homework as you've done. And if there is a credit union in your area that you qualify for and they're paying higher rates with lower fees, then absolutely take full advantage of it. And, you know, one other thing I'll mention is that federally insured credit unions are equally as safe as FDIC insured banks. Those credit unions use what's called National Credit Union Share Insurance Fund, which is is backed by the full faith and credit of the United States government in the same way as FDIC insurance. So you bring up a great point, and I would fully concur with checking your credit union. At the same time, you look at Bankrate.com and, you know, consider some of the online banks in your search for low fees, accessibility, good customer service, and high interest. So, Teresa, a great point that you've made today. Thank you for listening, and thank you for calling. On to Spokane, Washington, 800-525 is the number to call. Ralph, thank you for your call today, sir. How can we help you?
Yes, I am getting ready to retire, and I'm working for a company. Well, I work for a transit service, and they have something called Public Employees Retirement Fund. And I'm trying to decide, I got in my retirement thing, it says that I can buy up my monthly payment. And so I'm trying to understand, is it worth buying up to increase my monthly payment or not? I mean, is it a good investment? Because basically they would pay higher rate all the way till I passed away.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it's certainly worth looking into. I think it's really just a function of the funds that you have available now and, the present value of that future income stream and whether, what they're going to return to you in terms of a higher monthly payout makes sense in terms of the rate of return you're going to get for the money you're going to have to commit to buying that up. So I think this warrants, Ralph, a visit with a financial planner to look not only at whether or not this makes sense from a financial standpoint, running the calculations, but also comparing that to what your expected lifestyle and budget will look like in retirement, what assets you have that when added to Social Security, whether or not that will meet your need, and the amount of liquid capital you need to hang on to in the near term. So, as they put all of that together, I think they'll be able to give you some good advice. Look for a CKA there in Spokane at our website, moneywise.org. Just click Find a CKA, and we appreciate your call. To Indiana, Scott, thank you for your call, sir. How can I help you?
Hi, good afternoon. I am 66, facing my second retirement. No debt at all. My house is paid for, everything's paid for. And I've got $116,000 plus sitting in the Passbook savings account making 0.01. I'm losing money. Yeah. I'm trying to find something to do with it.
Yeah. What is this money for? Is this money you need to try to convert into an income, or is it just, extra that is there if you had an emergency? What is it for?
Well, $30,000 is emergency fund. The rest is just money we've accumulated over the time.
Okay.
We've done very well financially the past 4 or 5 years, and money just.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the question is, beyond the 30,000, do you want to take any risk with it? Are you looking to achieve a higher, rate of return? I mean, you could immediately take this whole thing and move it into a high yield savings account and go from, what you're making right now to 0.5%, 0.5%, maybe even 0.55, and, quadruple your return, even though it's still not going to be a whole lot just by going to Ally or Marcus or Capital One 360. But if you want to take some risk, even on a very conservative basis with the portion beyond the 30,000 in the emergency fund, then you could begin investing it. The question would be, are you comfortable with a 7 to 10 year time horizon on that money so that you're not having to, pull money out when the market's down?
I like cash.
Okay.
My risk tolerance is somewhat low, but I wouldn't take some risk with it. But I was offered an account that invests in the market that you can actually write checks against. I don't know if that's a smart move or not, but I just know I'm losing money where I'm at right now.
Yeah. Well, I would look around, to our earlier caller. I mean, you could perhaps look for a credit union in your area that's offering an attractive interest rate. I mean, you can find 1%, even 2%. If you qualify for that particular credit union, you need to look at all the fine print. But I think if you're looking for a banking product, you just need to do your homework at bankrate.com or look locally to see what you can find. That's going to give you at least somewhat better, much better than you're earning now. But with inflation, let's say it's pegged at 2%, even any of those options, you're going to be losing purchasing power over time unless you take a portion of it and move it into risk assets. Even on the conservative end of the spectrum, you could have an advisor build a portfolio for you that has, maybe 30% in dividend paying conservative value based stocks that would provide some growth. And even if the market was down for a period of time, a year or two from now, you wouldn't touch that and you'd let it come back. And then the rest you could invest in, bonds and other fixed income type investments with a goal of getting not 5 or 6 or 8%, but maybe, 4% or 5%. But if you want to stay in banking products that are ultra conservative, I think you just need to look for better yield. And that's going to either be a credit union or an online bank. So appreciate your call. It sounds like you guys are doing a lot of things right because you had quite a bit of margin that allowed you to build up this money in the first place during retirement. We appreciate your call. God bless you, sir. Well, that's going to do it for us today. So thankful that you stopped by. I want to say thank you to my team today, Gabby T and Amy Rios and Jim Henry, and thank you for being here as well. We'll come back on Monday and do it all over again. I hope you'll join us. In the meantime, have a great weekend. God bless you.
MoneyWise is provided by MoneyWise Media and listeners like you.